I'm Brandon Amoroso, and this is the D2Z Podcast, building and growing your business from a Gen Z perspective.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to D2Z, a podcast about using the Gen Z mindset to grow your business. I'm Gen Z entrepreneur Brandon Amoroso, founder and president of retention as a service agency, Electric. And today I am joined by Adena Merabi, which I hope I didn't butcher your last name, partnerships team lead at Okendo. I'm going to introduce you in a moment here, but before that, just have to call out our sponsor, Gorgias, the #1 Shopify customer support platform, helping brands like BrüMate and 11,000 more turn their customer support into a profit center. So elevate your customer experience, increase retention, and boost efficiency with Gorgias' omni-channel help desk. And you can book a demo on their website and mention the D2Z podcast to get your second and third months free. But without further ado, Adena, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody listening?
Sure. Thanks, Brandon. Hi, everyone. My name is Adena Merabi. And Brandon, you did not butcher my last name. You got it right. I currently manage our West Coast agency partnerships at Okendo, as well as our tech partners. Been here for 2 years exactly. Just celebrated my 2-year anniversary the other day. And Okendo is a ratings, reviews, and surveys tool that works with over 8,000 merchants on Shopify and Shopify Plus. Some, that you might recognize: Skims, Buck Mason, Florence by Mills, Netflix. A lot of fun, fast-growing Shopify D2C brands.
I like the Florence by Mills shout out.
Oh, yeah. You like a little shout out?
So how did you get your start in e-com and wind up working at Okendo?
Yeah, great question. So I actually started out my career in politics, which not a lot of people know. And then I quickly realized it was not the industry for me. Started working at sales at Oracle. And then I met the wonderful Rachel Tyers, who is our SVP of partnerships at Okendo. At the time, she was VP of partnerships at Mute 6, which is another performance marketing agency here in LA. So got a job there, started working in e-com, and then quickly realized, something's going on in the tech space that I need to be a part of. It's fast growing. There's a lot going on, lots of investment. And so a few months later, I reached out to Rachel again, and here we are. And it's been 2 years.
That's awesome. I didn't realize it had already been 2 years.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Time flies.
Yeah. So obviously, since you joined Okendo, the Shopify sort of ecosystem, especially on the technology side, is a lot different in 2021 than it is in 2023. Obviously, things have changed a lot since 2021 when you joined the Okendo team, at least in terms of like the Shopify ecosystem and the way tech companies have been growing or not growing. And was curious, what are some of the macro trends you've seen this year, at least? Because you obviously have a lot of access to both agencies and the tech partners as well. And so what are some of the insights that you could share and shed a light on there?
Yeah, and that's a really great question. I actually just got back from a conference in Miami, and the biggest topic of conversation right now is one, the economic downturn and how that's affecting consumer behavior and discretionary spending. And obviously that trickles into, brands and their acquisition of new customers and also just, seeing the sales that they need. That is being paired with rising acquisition costs. So it's becoming a lot more, costly to acquire a new customer rather than retaining an existing customer and increasing LTV, which is customer lifetime value. So those are kind of the topics of conversation on the merchant side. Mm-hmm. And then on the tech side, we're hearing a lot of merchants telling us that they want to consolidate their tech stack, that, because of all these vendors that are kind of popping up and have popped up during the time between 2021 and 2023, merchants can be working with 5, 10, 15 different tech partners in order to achieve and accomplish the same goals. And so those are kind of the trends that we're seeing. There are a lot of ways that we're thinking about helping brands get through that time here at Okendo. And I can definitely dive into that as well if you want me to.
Yeah, because you're sort of going through your own product bundling phase right now with the launch of Connect or surveys. Which one was that, 9 months ago? Or how long ago was that? Maybe
10 months ago now, like 9 or 10 months. Yeah.
So I guess how have things been going on that front? Because that's something I've been asking a lot of our tech partners who are adding a complementary product to their offering. And just curious in terms of whether the adoption is primarily coming from existing customers or if it's coming from net new. Is it a net new inbound source as well? Because you now have this additional product functionality. But I get for me, it feels like Okendo could be the zero-party data platform where, there's reviews and surveys, but then there's other solutions that we use right now, whether it's for quizzes or other things where we're getting zero-party data. But it's not ideal to have multiple different platforms getting that zero-party data, because then you can't ask logical next questions in the customer journey. If you go and take the quiz and we ask you what your skincare type is, but then we ask you the same question in the post-purchase survey, it's why? And then when Klaviyo, we have somebody who has two properties that have the same answer, whereas we could have used that to ask another question in the post-purchase survey so that we can build out a more enriched customer profile. But yeah, how have things been going on that front with the additional sort of complementary product line?
Yeah, that's a great question. So about a year ago, we were at a pivotal point where, we needed to take a look at the company's roadmap and what we're hearing in the space. What is some of the feedback that we were getting from merchants, from our agency partners? What were some of the issues that we could solve, in the ecosystem? And one of the biggest things we heard was marketing channel attribution and just collecting additional data that you can use to retarget your customers and increase LTV. One of the ways that you can do that is through running a survey, right? The first part is through reviews, which we already do. The second would be collecting additional information through surveys. So with Okendo, you can create and launch 4 different or a ton of different types of surveys, but across 4 different channels. So it's not limited to just post-purchase. You can run shareable link surveys, post-purchase, of course, on-site surveys, and then post-review. The benefit of having a reviews platform, in the same house as your surveys platform is the ability to avoid asking duplicate questions, right? You don't want to be asking your customer when they're leaving a review, what's your skin type? And then, like you said, in a post-checkout survey, asking again, what's your skin type? You don't want to have that duplicate efforts, which you can be using that time and your customer's attention to ask additional data questions. You asked who is adopting the platform or that feature currently. I would say a mixture of both. We do have a lot of our current customers leveraging Okendo surveys to understand, where they can attribute the sale. Is it from Facebook? Is it from Instagram? Is it from Google search, through a friend? It's also a really great way to understand who are your brand promoters. So asking questions around net promoter score, how likely would you recommend our product or our brand to your friends? And then that kind of segues into our latest product that's coming out, which is referral software. So being able to turn your current customers into a referral stream and acquire additional customers that way, asking your customers to refer their friends and family. And you can obviously ask your 5-star reviewers. You can ask your customers that have left you a 10 out of 10 on their net promoter score. So we're really, really, again, like sitting here and trying to figure out what are our customers looking for? Like what's kind of the biggest gap in the system, and how can we help fill that? So referrals is next, coming out end of June. And then after referrals, we have 2 additional products that we're working on that will be released later on in the year.
That's exciting. We'll have to do
I know you're excited.
We'll have to do another episode when we can talk about those more. And
oh yeah.
I feel like there's definitely a movement in the market as a whole to go towards product bundling, but then there's still a few areas where I think they will sort of live on as standalone apps, like Gorgias, for example, with customer service. I don't really see any tech partner that we currently work with like adding customer service to their platform because it's such a unique and distinct like function. I think same could be said for customer communication marketing, whether it's like email, text, direct mail. I feel like you need a platform that does that, like actually goes out and sends all the communications to the customers. I don't really see, I don't know, let's say hypothetically, I don't see a recharge adding on like very robust email and SMS marketing capabilities or something like that. So I think there's still some pretty clear like swim lanes, but then the lines start to blur a lot. Especially because the whole ethos of the Shopify ecosystem was you use like an app for each specific function and then they all integrate with one another. So I guess one question I have for you out of curiosity is what are tech partners doing now when it comes to managing relationships that may or may not be completely competitive with new product offerings that the tech companies are coming out with?
Yeah, it's really tricky, isn't it? You know, I think
I'm trying to navigate it too, so I'm curious how you are.
Right. And I think as we continue through the year, we will continue to see consolidation happening in the ecosystem where, you know, partners will see an opportunity to launch a new product in order to retain their own clients or in order to upsell their own clients. So I think we're all just kind of looking at looking at the environment and thinking to ourselves, like, how can we continue to drive value, not just for ourselves, but for our clients? It's a really, really tricky situation when you're working with a partner and you know, and they know that you're launching a competitive product, but it's not your only product. So you can still work with them. And there's an understanding there that if they refer you a client, you won't mention the competitive product. So, you know, we like to say that we play fair in the sandbox, and we definitely do. There are definitely certain like categories of things that we are not going to get into. Email and SMS, like that's not our thing. We're not going to do that. We're not going there. It's more so, you know, just some of the ancillary functionalities that we think we're really strong at, which is data collection, like you said earlier, and just sort of the like retention piece and the lifetime value of a customer. So it's interesting, you know, I come from an agency background, and previously when I was at that agency, we still partnered with other agencies that had competitive services. Like, you know, we worked with an agency that only did Google search, or we would work with an agency that only did email marketing, but we had the full suite. And so it's just an understanding that if you're working with someone, and you still can, that you would never broach that relationship by like trying to take the client after they referred you. So it's just an understanding there, but I really don't know I don't know what it's gonna look like. Like, I really don't know, I have no way of like really like knowing if a tech partner is going to be like, we don't want to work with you anymore.
Right.
I just kind of have to continue.
I mean, I kind of look at it like how Shopify has a bunch of products that are technically competitive with apps, but they're just sort of there for those who want the baseline functionality, like Shopify's email product. But we don't have a single client who uses Shopify's email product because it's not Klaviyo. And Shopify reviews. We don't have a single client who uses Shopify reviews because it's not Okendo. Because they're just sort of they're there for those who want the product bundle and also don't need to like push the platform or push reviews to sort of upper threshold, I guess. So I think there's some room for that as well. And some of the bigger players in the e-com space, like they've added on products, but they've even told me on the agency side, like this is more so here for those that want it, but it's not like this truly is a competitor to this other company that you work with all the time. Like you should stick working with them. But yeah, I mean, on the agency side, I agreed there too, because we partner with other agencies. There's other agencies that have stronger skill sets in some areas than we do, and vice versa. And at the end of the day, I mean, the client is going to choose one way or another. So if I'm a tech partner, I don't really want to be like sticking my foot in the line and being, let's say hypothetically, Okendo surveys and Okendo reviews. Like you have a client who's using reviews, but they're using another surveys product, and are you really going to tell that group of customers, actually you have to use our surveys because we're not going to integrate anymore with this other survey tool? And I think that's a great way to like piss off a lot of people and not engender sort of good faith in the ecosystem, which means a lot, especially when there's a lot of competition in some of these areas too. It's like, well, whatever, I'm just going to go on and find another solution. So
100%.
I think there's room for everyone. I haven't seen as many acquisitions as I would have thought, at least not yet, but I'll be curious as things progress over the next like year and a half here. What that looks like, because there were a lot of layoffs both on the agency and the tech partner side. So I think that extended runway for a bit for some, but there's also some areas where it just makes so much sense. Return softwares and your order tracking systems. So like a Loop, and then there's Malomo and Wonderment. I'm like, I mean, this could not make more sense in my opinion, but it's like, how do you work out the details, and then also dealing with the fact that a lot of these companies raised pretty significant amounts of money over the last 3 years. And so an exit in this current environment may not be advantageous for them.
Yeah. An exit. We're not going to see a lot of acquisitions happening right now because it's just a very volatile market. And I don't think that a lot of tech companies, like if tech companies were going to raise or if they were going to get acquired, they're not going to get the same valuation that they did, previous to the economic downturn. And we really don't know like how long this is going to last. Like we don't know when things will turn around for the better. So I think in the meantime, that's why you're seeing a lot of these tech companies with the resources be able to come out with new products. And to your point with Shopify having, all these other features that you can bundle that are really basic. Sure. Like if you really dig into it, a lot of tech partners offer other services, like even like Recharge, for example, they do have an SMS component, even though it's just to remind you of your subscription coming up, right? Yeah. Like there are features available to a lot of tech partners that are also available to other tech partners, but you really have to look at who is the best of breed in that category, who does the best job, and do they integrate with all the other platforms that they need? If the answer is yes, then there's no question about you. Like you shouldn't doubt working with that partner just because it's not bundled,
Right.
And I know you know that, and I know that a lot of brands know that as well. But I think from time to time, we do talk to brands that are just like only concerned with the tech bundling, and they're kind of overlooking like the quality of who they're working with.
Yeah, one of the biggest gaps I've seen is in brands migrating over to Shopify from like a Magento or just some other ecosystem. And that ecosystem, first of all, is not nearly as mature or as large. And so they're just trying to sort of figure it out on their own. And then it comes down to which tech partners have the best sort of marketing and like SEO. And it's less about the actual product itself because you sort of don't know what you don't know. And so we ended up with, I want to say, a merchant like last year who came to us too late, unfortunately. And their tech stack was just like awful, just terrible. For no fault of their own. They're just going off of what they could find online and sort of the marketing and, oh, you're really big. You got this investment from Shopify. I guess you must be like the number one. And it's like, well, you're not really, you just don't know what you don't know. And then they're locked up to like an annual contract. And so we're sort of handcuffed on our end because we can't do too much. But I feel like that's the biggest gap I've seen, at least in tech stack selection, is when you have a sort of an outsider entering into the Shopify ecosystem and they're not just privy to, I don't know, the sort of, there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of things that people just know within the Shopify ecosystem if you've been within it for long enough that you wouldn't do. But if you came at it looking externally and you just look up like Shopify reviews app on the internet, who knows where you're going to end up.
Yeah. And you know what, Brandon? That's why they need you. That's why they need electric marketing, because you guys have been doing it for so long. You have it down to a T. It's a recipe, like I was just on the line with your team not too long ago, maybe 30 minutes ago. And we were talking about how you guys have 30, 60, 90 plans and how it's baked into every client you work with. And there's really a strategy behind like where you need to be and where you're going as a Shopify merchant. And if you're new to the space and you don't have a good agency that you're working with, work with electric marketing because they know what they're doing. So, that's my bit of advice here.
Yeah, I mean, tech stack's super important for us because I don't think it can grow your business overnight. Like if you just download an app, you still have to set it up. You still have to put it into your customer journey. Like it's not going to turn itself on, but your tech stack can limit and inhibit your growth, which we've run into numerous times before where you're just not able to do what you want to do because your solutions don't talk together or they're just not functional.
Yes, agreed.
But I appreciate the electric plug. So I know we're running up on time here. Is there any sort of last comments or things you want to sort of highlight for the audience, either from a overall ecosystem perspective or from a partnership standpoint, since you have the purview of both agencies and tech partners?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess my one bit of advice / feedback is something I mentioned earlier. So I think people get really caught up in this idea of having all of their tools under one roof, and sacrificing quality just to have everything sort of in one vendor. Really, really think about that, because chances are that partner is good at one thing, but they do other things as well. And you're sacrificing all the other functions of your business for quality. So when you're doing your research, reach out to your consultants, whoever you're working with, your agency partner, do a bit of research and really try to understand who is the best of breed in what they do. All of the platforms integrate with one another. That should be the number one priority. And just make sure that you're really building that good customer experience that is going to help you increase your LTV. It's going to help you convert more shoppers so that your acquisition costs go down. So that's my bit of advice. I don't know. I'm sure I have more advice, but you can always reach out to me or reach out to Brandon if you have any other questions as well.
Awesome. If people want to get in contact with you, what would be the best way to do so?
Feel free to email me. My email address is Adena, Adena.Merabi, Merabi @gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. For everybody listening, as always, it's Brandon Amoroso. You can find me at brandonamoroso.com or electricmarketing.com. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.